So I have bought one of the Behringer XRs. I bought the XR16. Sorry to interrupt my past self there, but this video is actually going to be a bit different from what I thought it was when I filmed that, so... Hi guys, it's Emma, welcome back to my channel, and if you're new here, then welcome to the chaos. I do all things music related on here, from audio engineering style content to production and songwriting challenges to just talking about music and musician life. Today's video is not the video I said it would be at the end of last time's video. I said I was going to be doing some messing around with amps. I will be doing that video, it's just I forgot I was further into March than I actually am, and I realized that I had that video planned around a certain release of something. That's not the video we're doing today. Actually, I started recording a different similar video because you may remember me posting about this on my social media the other week if you follow me. If you don't stalk me, then you won't remember this. But I recently bought a new mixer for my live stuffs, basically my gigging musician career. But I actually bought it for a couple of reasons, but the main one being I needed a new mixing desk that was a non-powered mixing desk, because I mostly, when I gig live, I've been using my Yamaha Stage Pass 400 BT. That's the main PA system I use. It suited me very well up until now, but for a combination of reasons, I've started to feel the need to upgrade. One being that I want to generally upgrade the system to something a bit more powerful, because every now and then I do have a gig where that isn't quite powerful enough and I could do with something more now. But also, I've been playing a lot of gigs where they didn't want me to use my full PA system. They wanted me to use some sort of in-house system, either a set of speakers that they have or an actual in-house, plug into a wall kind of PA system. And the thing about both of those kinds of setups is that generally if venues had speakers, they had powered speakers, and those in-house systems generally powered systems. So I had the issue of the main outs on my Yamaha Stage Pass being powered outs. Need to pair a powered mixing desk with passive speakers and a non-powered mixing desk with active speakers. So i.e., if you have speakers that plug in and have their own power source, they then need to be plugged into a desk or an output specifically that is not a powered output, because sending more power to something that's already powered is one of the ways that you get things like feedback and stuff. If you have speakers that don't plug in and don't have their own power source, then they need to be powered somehow, and that's what powered outs in powered mixing desks are for. They're for powering a passive speaker, a speaker that doesn't have its own power source. I needed to get some sort of non-powered option, and I also wanted to upgrade, and so I looked at what system to get, and I actually filmed an entire video about the XR16. I spent a good month comparing different models, including some other models that were much pricier. So I wanted to get myself a digital mixing desk. All of the inputs and stuff, the way you plug it in is on this unit, but there's no faders, no effects, anything like that on the unit. All of the controls are part of an app that goes on here. Those really appealed to me because it makes it a lot easier if you're a solo performer and you need to adjust something about your levels live. Going back and forth to wherever you've placed your mixing desk in your setup is not always that practical. Now, sometimes I'm able to place it relatively close to me, other venues I'm not able to, but that can sit on my mic stand. But I also have future projects in mind where this system in particular appealed to me, and partially because of the portability of being able to literally walk around a room with the iPad to make adjustments. The other big thing that appealed to me was the ability to record out of a desk. I want to be able to record some good quality sound of my performances for use in show reels and things like that, but also something I want to, I'm trying to move more into doing audio engineering style projects in general, and one of my aims for the year is to set up my own open mic or acoustic night or something like that. My aim is to set up a night where I would be offering photos, videos, recordings out of the desks. I'd love to be able to put on live performances where we're able to record or possibly even live stream them. There are a variety of different things that I want to be able to do, that having some sort of option to record sound out of a live sound desk as easily as possible was a great option for me. Now, when I was reading the specs for the different Behringer XR models, I got muddled, and I thought when I was buying the XR16 that did the multi-track recording option. I was wrong about that. I'd mixed that up when doing all of my reading. I'd gotten muddled because, if you go and read the model descriptions, you'll be able to see that only the top end model of the XRs does the multi-track recording, only the XR18. So I now have an XR18. I realized this as I was recording that previous video. That's when I figured out my mistake, that the XR16 only takes a stereo WAV file is what you can get. You just get a stereo WAV file recording out of the desk onto a USB drive. You can't plug it into a computer and take any sort of recording that way, and you can't take a multi-track recording, and you can't really use it for live streaming and stuff like that because of it. So a lot of the things that I was thinking, oh, this will be really handy for that, all of a sudden it's like, this is no longer really handy for that, is it? On the last day of the 30-day returns policy was when I realized this. It was the last day. I didn't do a me, because what I would have done in the past is I would have just given up at that point and gone, well, that's my mistake. I just have to live with my mistake now. What a silly Billy. But I thought, you know what? Sometimes, if you ask for things, you get things. And sometimes, companies will be more than happy to have you send back a cheaper product to spend more money with them to get a more expensive product when it's literally just at the end of the 30 days return policy and there is nothing wrong with this product because you have basically barely taken it out of the box at this point. So I contacted Andertons and they were great, and they said, yep, no problem, as long as you've got the original box and you've got all of the parts and you can send it back to us, just pay the extra and we'll send out the XR18. So they sent out the XR18, I sent back the XR16, I now have an XR18! Woo! I think including because I had to pay for the shipping as well, which is, you know, it was my bad, so like that's fair as far as I'm concerned. But yes, with the shipping included, I think it cost me 120, 30 or something like that pounds more than my initial spend had been on the XR16. I'm like, you know what? I'm happy to spend that little bit more, to have the multi-track recording feature, because that is one of the most useful features, I think, about this particular model. And on that note, I would like to say, put those things on your medium level models, please. I am sick to death of the fact that you have to get something with 18 inputs you don't need in order to get a really useful feature like that multi-track recording feature. And I get it, that's part of what made the price difference between this and the mid-range model. The mid-range model probably would have been pricier if they'd included the multi-track recording in that model as well. But I hate that quite often you're looking at possibly wanting to get the highest range of a model solely because of one particular handy, cool feature that they know people want that they won't put on their mid-range model. Anyway, I'm overall extremely happy now because I still managed to get this for a decently bargain price in the sale. I now have this multi-track recording feature and I've just had a little play with it now. This is the recording that I was able to get out of the XR16 with just the stereo WAV file. Any effects and stuff on it are just whatever I was already set on the mixer.
Let's sail in. Where should I begin? Lost and bad, but maybe we'll win more.
And meanwhile, today I didn't put any effects on this. I just took a multi-track recording straight into Logic of my vocal and my guitar playing the same thing. That I've been able to go in and add effects later. So this is what I've been able to achieve with that.
Let's sail in. Where should I begin? Lost and bad, but maybe we'll win more.
And that's the big reason why I decided, you know, immediately after getting it, to trade in my XR16 for an XR18 straight away. Because other than that, the XR16 is basically the same. You've got a couple more inputs and a couple more outputs, and you've got that multi-track feature. But you're still using the app, and you have access to all of the same effects and stuff. I already basically recorded me going through my XR16, so here is me going through the various things on that. So it's called the R16 because of the number of inputs. You've got 8 inputs with mic pre's, and you've got 8 line inputs. You also have 6 outputs. You've got your 2 left and right main outputs, and then you've got 4 auxiliary outputs. That was one of the things that made me get this one over the model down from it, the 12. So the difference here is that instead of having 16 inputs, I have 18 inputs. I've got 16 inputs with mic pre's in them, and then I've got 2 line inputs, and then instead of 4 auxiliary outputs, I've got 6 auxiliary outputs. I have more outputs than I will ever have need for now. Then you also have MIDI in, MIDI out, you have a headphone out, and then you have your Ethernet connection. So we'll come back to this USB port that we also have here in a second, because I want to talk about the connectivity first. That's where one of the first troubleshooting issues comes in. One of the big selling points they harp on about in the, if you look at the spiel for this product from Behringer, they talk about how this is a digital mixing desk that removes the need for an outboard router because it has its own Wi-Fi connection built in. So technically, you're supposed to be able to just connect the Wi-Fi signal that this sends out. Unfortunately, the tech they put in this is not very good, and the general consensus is that you will still need to buy another router, an actual Wi-Fi router to plug into it. You can do that because you have the Ethernet port, but yeah, I find it quite funny that they make that part of the selling point, and then if you go through the reviews, it's people just telling you that you will in fact need to buy a Wi-Fi router to be able to use this properly because it doesn't stay connected. I immediately had that issue. The second I tried to connect this up, it stayed connected for about 2 minutes and then immediately disconnected. And it's extra frustrating that once it disconnects, you basically have to just keep pressing the little button in the access point to connect it back up again. Yeah. Not ideal. So I bought a router, connected that up, and I haven't had any issues with it since. You can use the official Behringer XR app, but you can also use this. I checked this already because some of the reviews I read were that some people had issues with the XR app. So far, I have had no issues with the actual XR app, but people have talked about having some issues with it crashing and stuff, and some of the features not necessarily working as well as they're supposed to. Gets really bad reviews on the App Store, not gonna lie. But so far, I haven't had an issue with it. The first time I got this out and double-checked that everything worked, I did have the XR app crash on me, and I made the assumption that maybe with the XR16 it wasn't happening because maybe it's a more basic model with more basic things that the app is being asked to do, or maybe I'd been doing something else that day or was doing something else at the same time that was why it particularly crashed in that moment. I don't know how crashy the app is actually going to be, but you can also I'll just quickly show you this other app called Mixing Station, and you can connect up to it on that as well. Mixing Station was about £3. So I bought it just to be on the safe side because I figured better to have a secondary option and not need it than to not have a secondary option and encounter issues with XR. I need to get to know Mixing Station better because I've gotten to know XR a little bit, but I haven't gotten to know Mixing Station as well yet because I didn't need to because XR worked fine for me. I'll definitely do a follow-up video in a few months from now after I've gotten to know Mixing Station better, and I'll compare the two. Once I've given XR a chance to actually show me some of these bugs people keep talking about. The XR app itself, it looks like a combination between a DAW and a mixing desk to me, that you have your channels down here, you have the option to mute, which was another thing I really wanted from whatever I was going to get. I wanted the option to mute no matter what. Then you also have up here your option for your sends. If you click at the very top, you've got your actual inputs where you can control the input gain. You've got your EQ directly on there. Now you've got your panning there. Where's the compression? Dynamics, you've got your compression in there. And then on top of that, you've got your effects. You've got your inserts, and that's where your effects live. It's in here. You go into effects, you turn them on or not, and then you can edit them in there by picking a different one. It's to the actual effects sends here. That's where you send it to your effects. Like I said, I will do a more detailed video in future when I have gotten to know this better and haven't just done a basic crash course and set up some presets to use. What do you guys think? Do you think it was worthwhile me spending that extra money to trade in and go up a model so I could have that multi-track recording option? Or are you just like, Emma, that's insane, why did you do that? I wouldn't have done that. I personally think I'm going to like having that multi-track option, not just because if I'm recording something at a gig, being able to record multiple different tracks and then go back and edit them again later is far more flexible, It allows for mistakes to be made in the moment at the gig. but also because it makes this a more practical tool for a variety of different uses. I can actually basically use this like an audio interface. This is basically doing the job of an audio interface right now. Logic is treating it like an audio interface. And I can technically just go into OBS using my audio interface, you know, but I can't put effects on other than the effects that OBS has, which aren't great. They don't have like lots of effects for setting up a really good musical performance style kind of recording, unless I go from Logic into OBS, but that's really cumbersome. And something like this is going to work a lot better because this has effects that I can add, and it has loads of effects that I can add. So I can compress and I can EQ and I can add reverbs. So it's much more practical for live streaming music stuffs or for recording music stuffs in that way than just going in through an interface would be. Anywho, so I think it's really worthwhile, but what do you guys think? Do you think it was worthwhile? And I hope this video was helpful if you were maybe looking at these models of desk yourself and you wanted a bit of an overview of the actual features and in practice how they can actually be used and why I have ended up upgrading like I have. I hope that all of that information is maybe helpful to somebody else. Hopefully you won't make the same mistake I did and buy the wrong desk basically the first time around. This is not a review though. I will probably do a proper review of this desk when I've had a chance to actually use it properly more. If I actually think it's worth the money I paid for it, or if I hate it now. I don't think I'm gonna hate it, but I may have some things to complain about by that point, like properly. Anywho, that is all for today's video. It was a little bit of a chaotic one, that wasn't it? That's, you know, I do welcome you guys to the chaos at the start of these videos for a reason. If you enjoyed this video, then you might enjoy my content on this channel in general, in which case you might want to hit that subscribe button, but I know that that is a big decision to make, so do feel free to check out some of the other content here first to make sure that you will be happy here. You wouldn't want to subscribe and unsubscribe. If you want to follow my socials so you get updates on when crazy stuff like this is happening in general, then they're all linked below. There are also links down there to where you can find stuff for my artist profiles, because I do release my own original music, and I did play one of those songs in this video for demonstration, so if you like the song, you can stream that. There'll be links for all of that stuff in the description. There's also a link down there to my Buy Me a Coffee, where if you want even more chaos, you can join one of my memberships and you get all sorts of weird behind the scenes content on there. Okay, that is all. I shall see you guys next time with that video that I promised about messing around with acoustic guitar amps. But until then, bye!